welcome to the sketchbook tour. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video. It's something a little bit different, but I've been really excited to make this video because I am somebody who never once in my entire life, not as a child, not as a teenager, never have I ever completed a sketchbook. And I did it for the first time in this sketchbook at the age of 29, and I wanted to share it with you. This work is probably one of my favorites, and it annoys me because it's the first one I did and then I felt like nothing would match up to it for a really long time. But this is gouache and oil pastel and regular pencil, and I just really enjoy the colors in this one. And then I was really inspired by Sian Dianthy's and the way that she underpaints to get a certain type of texture in her work, and so I wanted to try replicating that here. I'm not happy necessarily with the subject matter, but I thought it was a cool technique that I'm excited to play with a bit more. Have some little sketches. I'm not happy with any of these. I think they look a little bit awkward, but I was playing with markers and that's still quite enjoyable. And then some little composition sketches. These are just really rough and really exploratory. Playing with shapes and colours, again with some florals. I love drawing florals. They're one of my favourite subject matters. And then again, just looking at shapes, trying to take out detail with marker to get the shapes of leaves and different grasses. And then I started experimenting with gouache, and this was based on a YouTube video tutorial that I followed. I was really happy with this and I want to learn how to do more of this. It feels really Studio Ghibli-esque. Ghibli. Fight me, I don't know. And I really want to do more of this style. I thought this was really fun. This was cute. It feels very cartoonish. I kind of like the cartoonishness, but I think here I was really trying to experiment with using pencils for gradients, and I'm really happy with how it's worked in the actual fish themselves. I'm not happy with the shape of the fish, but generally I like what's going on here. And then this was a little bit awkward, but like the art is a little bit awkward. Got some stamps from when I went to Japan. And then I started visual journaling, and this was 2023, and so every day, this was a solo trip I took to Tokyo, and every day I would review my photographs that I took that day, and I would go and sketch what I saw. I really like this fish shape, and I really like the coffee cup. I think some of the looseness in these visual journals really appeals to me, and it's something I still do now. Same here, I really liked these geese and this fish. I'm not sold on alcohol markers yet. It's something I'm still working on, but it's something I'm really keen to explore more, and I think in my later sketchbooks I have improved better. I have improved, and that's wonderful to see. More visual sketchbooking, loved it. I love the concept of visual sketchbooking because it takes you back, and I can explicitly remember pretty much every single thing that I've drawn, and I really like that. And then here I was playing with quite bold shapes and paint. This was one of my early experiments with oil pastel, and as we know, oil pastel is my enemy, my mortal enemy, and it went very muddy and I didn't like it, so I covered it up. Playing with paints, I really like how the paint forms the outline, and then I used pencil for details in a few of these elements. This was a soft pastel, which didn't work the way I wanted it to. That's fine, it's all experimental. I love blue and orange, so a bit of a homage to that. And I was testing out metallic watercolor paints on this. And while I really like the paints, I don't like them in this specific artwork, but I'm keen to use these paints a bit more in different ways. And then we got into pen sketching, and I was so happy with so many of these. These became one of my favorite pastimes, or like favorite hobbies, was to pen sketch with really dramatic shadows. So looking at birds, doing little studies. I followed a TikTok tutorial on how to paint ripples in water, and I think the shadows are too dark, but generally this technique worked really well, and I was really happy with that. And then I went and got into a bit of like a painting funk, or not painting funk, I got into a bit of a painting, I don't know, I was enjoying it. I was really enjoying it, and so I went a little bit morbid with some mushrooms and a skull, but I really like the sketchiness of this and how it all sort of played out. And then I did this artwork on location in New Zealand. It's very flat, it's not dimensional enough. I think the tree, I sort of messed it up. I'm really happy with some of the water and how that looks, but more than anything, this was painting on location, and I'm just happy that I did it, and I sat in this spot for an hour and this was the view. I think the memories make the artwork worth it, even though I'm not necessarily happy with the artwork itself. Doing some little patterns here. I love simple patterns, and I love this little gridded quilt-like structure. And then these artworks, I was really happy with this. I did all of these ones in New Zealand, actually, from here, this one, and then this was done in New Zealand, and I really liked that. I really was happy with the flower and how I did the dragon, and I started doing all of my shooting stars kind of like this after drawing this one, and I love it. And I did more visual journaling. This was in Queenstown on the 27th of December. Again, love the fish. Drew a little fruit mince pie because it was just after Christmas, and it brings me back. I can remember where I was at the moment when I chose to draw this. Lilies, I think the perspective is a little off, but I did really like the color scheme. This, I don't know what I was doing here. I also don't know if I like it, but you know, it's all experimental, and that is the point of a sketchbook. These two I was really happy with. They were really bold, and I felt really confident in what I was doing. The black and white and the color is something that I still do now, having certain parts of the work being color and then other parts be exclusively black and white. And then using the white marker here for the line work. Yeah, I was just really, really happy with these two and how they turned out. And then this, I was playing with really geometric flowers. This was really inspired by Eureka Studio on Instagram. Wonderful work, you should definitely go and check it out. And then this was my attempt at recreating my digital art style in traditional media. This was a new composition that I developed, but this is the type of thing that I do digitally quite a lot, and being able to actually do it traditionally was really wonderful. This is actually, I know I said the first piece in this book isn't probably my favorite piece, but this is probably actually my favorite piece if I'm being realistic. Lots of little explorations of vessels, more plant life, again looking at like really geometric shapes and patterns and repetitive line work. This is a really fun creative exercise that I still do. If I sit down and I'm not sure what to draw, I draw a bunch of vases and a bunch of plants, and then I fill in the details with a white pen, which this is one of my favorite pens. It's the Jelly Roll Sakura pen, and it shows up quite well. So yeah, strongly recommend that pen. More experiments with gouache. I felt like the colors came out a little too muted on this, and it was a little bit muddy, but I kind of like the dark, moody aesthetic at the same time. And this blue, this is one of my favorite blues, and it features so heavily in my next sketchbook. I love it, love it. More experiments with gouache and then watercolor. I've really enjoyed working with watercolor. I actually feel like I prefer working with watercolor than gouache. Watercolor just seems more flexible, I suppose. So this one is watercolor and pencil, and this was inspired by Lou Bench. I think that's how you say their last name. Their work is really, really wonderful, and so this was pretty closely inspired by that. More visual like pen studies and drawings, and then working with watercolor again here. I feel like a pen outline would have been a bit crisper and a bit nicer than the pencil outline, but I love the colors together. This lime green became a bit of a hyperfixation for me for a little bit, and I did this one on a public holiday at a friend's house. We had like a crafting day, and I painted this there. It was a lot of fun. Experimenting with really bright colors here, and just sort of trying to be really playful in my work. More paint. This one I created and I filmed it for a TikTok, which was a lot of fun. This is gouache background and then watercolor and pencil lilies. So a lot of experimenting with mediums rather than necessarily experimenting with subject matter. And then this, I was inspired by my Japan trip. I was back in Australia and I was having a bit of like the travel blues. So I went and created this as a bit of an homage. Little pen artwork, and then this one is a pencil sketch, which is really kind of hard to see because I was preparing to paint it at a later date and then I never did, but I'm still counting it as a complete artwork. Like, that's fine. Sometimes you don't finish everything you ever make. I love my pen sketches. I just love it, and I love this one. I'm starting to get a little bit more confident with proportions. This little strawberry cake. Even this, I feel like it's the start of something I would quite like. Again, inspired by Lou Bench. Benish? I'm not sure. And trying those metallic watercolors. Again, I think I'm a bit happier with how they look in this one than the previous one, but I would like for this to be more detailed. Back to pen sketching. I love this. It's something I still do. And then my final art of this sketchbook, which was a vase. I love drawing vases. And so that was my first sketchbook that I completed in the end of 2023 and through to 2024. I managed to actually complete 2 sketchbooks in 2024, which is, I mean, 1 sketchbook is a record for me. So 2 was just like overachieving, you know. So let's have a look at the second sketchbook that I completed in 2024. This one is a little bit bigger, a little bit heftier. There's more going on here. It's more experimental. And this sketchbook I started, this is, as you'll see, it's my MFA diary. I'm doing my Masters of Fine Art, and I started this at the start of the first semester. So I have a lot of my classwork in here as well. So there is more. This one I feel like is far more finished, pretty, pristine work comparative to this one. You're going to see a lot more quote unquote ugly art in this one. So I started off sketching some ideas for pieces for work, some really rough pencil sketches. I also did a lot of my schoolwork in this, so brainstorming different concepts and sketching stuff from our critiques. I'll sort of skip through a lot of the writing stuff. A lot of my study went in here as well. Really, really rough compositional sketches. I find sketchbooking to be really, really useful for this as well, although it never feels nice to share it because it isn't the picture perfect thing that we tend to see people share. Again, pen sketches, love this. These I ended up digitizing a few of them. This fish has become my YouTube channel, what's it called? Like in between scenes, that fish, I animated that. Drew quite a few of these things, these elements digitally. More pencil sketching here, just exploring forms. More homework. These really rough, starting to play with figures and shapes. And then painting. This was, I'm not sure what I was thinking here. I tried drawing my dog, and I don't know, she has an underbite, like a really extreme underbite, and everything I do just look ridiculous. So that's that. Pencil sketches, pomegranates. I tried drawing a face and it didn't work in pencil. I'm much more confident drawing figures digitally, so then I just covered it up. More pencil sketches. I was listening to Taylor Swift, the Tortured Poets Farm in here, so we've got a bunch of Taylor Swift lyrics, mapping out more detailed concepts from these sketches. These were the initial ideas, and this is what the compositions turned into. They ended up being refined into final paintings, which were presented in class in like a gallery exhibit type format. Notes from the critiques I did and participated in. Again, compositional sketches that are super, super messy, but just to be clear on like what I'm aiming for in each of the artworks. More notes. This was really inspired by Lee Ellickson and Not a Tulip. And I did this in school, in my studio one day when I couldn't really focus. I really like this fish on a hook. And this, I actually just really like this page in general. I think I was starting to get a bit more confident with my forms and my shapes at this point. More notes from critiques. Very rough sketches. I'm not sure what this was, but it's there and it exists. It's some sort of portal or something. Understanding what the concept of phenomenology is. Brainstorming. This page, I had taken quite a break from sketchbooking, I think almost like 3 or 4 weeks, and getting back into it was really tough. I tried drawing a bit of a self-portrait. I'm not sure what I was doing with this. Few unfinished things. It just felt really uncomfortable at this point. And then things started to get a little bit easier. I explored watching a lot of vlogs, and I explored trying to create shapes out of negative space with paint. I'm not like stoked with this, but I think it's an interesting technique that I want to explore a little bit more. More brainstorming, more brainstorming. This was life drawing that I started doing, but we ended up moving on from that location quite quickly, so I didn't really get to finish anything. I started doing Peachtober, and so every day I was mapping out different concepts that I wanted to make, but honestly I had so much going on with client work at that point. I think I got up to day 4 and then I stopped, and that tends to happen every single year. Playing around with paints again, starting to get back into it in October. I do kind of like this messiness, and you'll see I tend to do this a little bit more towards the end of the year. Again, exploring vases. I didn't finish this page. I started playing with pencils here and pencil gradients, and this was really fun. I really enjoyed this, and I really like this technique. Playing with alcohol markers and more pencils. This was a gouache painting that I did, and I really liked the colors. I was really happy with how that turned out. I drew another version of my dog, which I like much more. Again, the pen sketches are my friend. These were my visual journaling from my 2024 Japan trip. This is where I think I can see myself improving with alcohol marker, because I was much happier with how this looked. These little gouache scenes were super cute and super fun. I really enjoyed painting these, and I'd like to do more little landscapes. It feels very, there's a YouTube channel that does like fantasy, like ambience, and they have their own little character that's blonde and that's like an adventurer. I think the channel's called Blue Turtle, and it reminds me, I was inspired by those sorts of landscapes. So definitely check it out. I put it on while I'm working all the time. Exploring forms of florals, back to what I know and what I'm comfortable sort of doing. I really like these pencil sketches. They were quite soft and quite gentle, but they were a lot of fun, especially working with a single color and still trying to get detail in it. More of these little like Blue Turtle inspired paintings, playing with different colors in grids. More gouache. No, this is acrylic, not gouache. I was using these acrylic paint markers that I have. These are the grabby acrylic markers. They're fine. They're fine. Pencil sketches. I really liked using the pen, pen sketches. I really liked using the pen to create the density of the leaves and focusing on that instead of shapes. Then I started playing with paper cuts, and I created this scarab, and this was a lot of fun, painting them, and it just helped me get out of my brain a little bit. And then I did more of that here with these florals, and I really want to make more of these because this was probably one of the most fun days I spent crafting. I really, really enjoyed it. Oh, the little center of that flower has come off. I need to glue that back on. These are the grabby acrylic markers. Again, I think that they're fine for sketchbooking, but you can see a lot of your lines. You can kind of tell that it's been drawn with a pen, which I don't love. I do like this little composition though. This is cute. These were the markers too. The blue and white. I love the blue and white. I go through blue and white phases. I was pretty happy with how these turned out. And this, again, on my blue and white thing. Love the mocha pot. I liked how I handled the hand much better in this than the last hand that I showed you back at the start of this book. Again, with the pencils, I really enjoyed the color and the gradients. I'm not quite sure how to make this style work because it feels so different from everything I'm used to, but I'm just going to keep rolling with it for now and see where it takes me. More pen sketches of, these were photos I saw on Pinterest. Just a cute little floral thing. And then I was watching The Grinch and there was Christmas lights, so I drew some Christmas lights. I'm not sure, this was on the 20th of December. I started getting really happy with my sketchbooking here, and I was sketchbooking like multiple pages every single day. So this vase is watercolor paint, and what pencils was it? It was, I'll tell you, it was these ones, the Derwent Color Soft pencils on top. Super happy with how this turned out, super happy with how this night scene turned out. And then I was concepting this little floral arrangement, which I end up doing a bit later on. Experimenting with the chicken. I think the face is a little bit funny, but besides that, I'm really happy with how you can see the paint and how the stars turned out and the pencil on top. Love, again, the black pencil. I'm back at that. These are all done on this, as you can see from the dates, 27th, 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 27th. I made a lot of art. 27th, a lot of art. 27th, a lot of art on that day. I think I spent, from memory, like 6 or 7 hours making art on that day, and it was so much fun. Vessels, I love this little rabbit, and I kind of want to make this a more formalized digital illustration. I think that would be really fun. Again, these were the grabby acrylic markers, playing with negative space. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Verdicts out. Drew a bunch of sad fish, which I really liked. This was watercolor, and I believe, again, the Derwent Color Soft pencils. And then this here is the larger version of this one, because I thought, oh, there's actually like something in this that I could probably pursue. So I went and created a larger version of that, which I was really happy with how that turned out. That was watercolor paint and then colored pencil as well. So was this, and I kind of liked experimenting with the watercolor as the stem and the leaves, and then the pencil as like outlined flowers. That's just, I really enjoyed that. I painted a cake because I was in a bad mood with somebody, and I wanted to tell them what I thought without telling them what I thought. So I painted that cake for a specific person at a time. And then I was back to these sorts of colors. Again, this is watercolor. This is watercolor and the pencil. This was the vibe of these few days. I really enjoyed it. Back to the grabby acrylic markers. Again, I was sort of just revisiting my older pieces, and I really liked this, so I decided to go and do it the same thing with figs, and then a little thing with like berries. And then this one is watercolor and pencil as well, but basically you put down a whole bunch of different splotches of watercolor on the page, and then you fill in the leaves on top, and you sort of create it from that. It was a really nice meditative exercise that I really enjoyed, so this I'm really happy with. And then this study is very close to the original artwork that I was replicating. I even wrote study inspired by, but no matter where I looked on Pinterest, I couldn't find the name of the actual artist. So I've sort of left it. I'm going to finish it, but like this is not my concept at all. This was me studying an existing artwork that I found. Then I did more of these little acrylic paint landscapes, which were a lot of fun. Back to pen, but I decided I wanted to do something a little bit different from all of the other pen artworks that I tend to do. So I was experimenting with cross-hatching and line work here, clouds, and then trees. These trees were from images from Japan. So I was working from reference photos. This was my study of Mount Rocco in oil pastel. We all know how I go with oil pastel. Mount Rocco is a mountain in Kobe in Japan, and it did not work. It did not work. I still put it in my Japan vlog because that's what it was for, but I'm not really happy with that, and I'm working on it. And this was a study of a floral arrangement at a flower competition in Kobe in Japan, again from photos. But again, oil pastel, you know what, I haven't conquered it yet, so it is what it is. And then we went back to some alcohol marker. Again, I was just like, I went from all of these days of being like so stoked with what I was making and so thrilled at how things were looking to like just struggle town, like not happy with this, not happy with this, not happy with this. I was just like, I remember this day, I was miserable by the end of it. Even this, I was like, you know what, it's acceptable. It was more visual journaling from Kobe, but it was not my favorite by any means. I do like this statue and these flowers that I drew, but honestly, that's about it on these pages. So I decided to go back to basics after that because I was just struggling so much. So I did this cute little pattern, which I ended up being quite happy with. And then these little tiles, which I also really enjoyed the primary colors and the vibrancy and the simplicity of them. And then again, I was like, you know what, I need to go back to what I know. So I went back to black pencil and black pen, and I was just working, studying images. And then I started having a lot of fun with the typography. And I mean, I am a communication designer or a graphic designer, so I love typography. And actually the first artworks that I made and shared was pretty much exclusively lettering. So getting back to that became really enjoyable. I refused to let the Mount Rocco skyline beat me, so I decided to try mediums I was a bit more comfortable with, and I'm much happier with these studies of the skyline. Yeah, sometimes it's just a medium, you know. Another study of my lunch on the Shinkansen, and then I was exploring the trees of the Cocoa and Gardens, which is in Kobe, and this was alcohol marker and black pen. And then I went back to my blue phase. Of course, I went back to my blue phase, and I love drawing trees. Like, it's so much fun. So I did these watercolor and pencil trees, and then drew these little rabbits in watercolor and pencil. And I'm happy. This spread, I do really like. More blue, again, I love this rabbit and I want to kind of formalize this as a digital illustration. So I think I'll do that. Same with this stork and the fish. And then I went back to typography. I saw a sign on Instagram on a door saying, I want to make beautiful things even if nobody cares, and it really resonated. And then I also thought, I want, and I make. And this is in watercolor as well. For a gallery project that I had this year, I was doing collage art, and it was a community initiative where the community could come in and participate in the exhibition and create their own collages. And so I cut up the tickets to Kiyomizu-dera Temple, which is in Kyoto, and then I created a little collage out of it, which was just really fun. And then I found other ephemera from my Japan trip, like the Shinkansen tickets and different pamphlets. And the thing is, like, I have a stack of these. Like, I am a compulsive material hoarder when I go traveling, and I collect everything. So I found a few things I was happy to sacrifice, and I created this little snail under a floral shelter composition. This was using the Tombow brush pen, which is starting to run out, but I really, really like these pens. I did a series of 5-minute still lifes in the Tombow brush pen as well, just to get me warmed up this day. And then I went straight back into this blue thing because I love it. Blue and black and white is my vibe. And so this was done using watercolor, one single color blue. This was done actually using these Dr. P.H. Martin's Radiant Concentrated Watercolor. And so this was done using just one color. I can't remember if it was the peacock blue or the iris blue. I have a funny feeling it was the iris, but I went through a bit of a phase with that as well. And then I started to get back into gouache, and so I did this little bug motif, which I'm not stoked with, but I do really like the vibrancy of the colors. And I did this little dog. I think the perspective of the tree is a bit off, but generally I do still like this composition, and I like how it turned out. I love the pink sky. I'm a big fan of a pink sky. More Tombow brush pen sketches, back to my roots here, florals and vases. When in doubt, florals and vases. And then this study, this is gouache, and this was inspired by Lee Ellickson again. I love how loose they are in their shapes and in their forms, and so I kind of wanted to experiment with something similar. When I'm experimenting with a new style, I find it really helpful to closely replicate your sources. Obviously, like you're not going to sell this, or I'm not claiming it's like an original concept by any means, but until I'm comfortable with a particular method of production, I like to try and replicate to understand how somebody else does something, and then from there, once I'm comfortable with that, I tend to branch out and adapt those techniques to my own subject matter and my own interests and my own color palettes. So this was my very, very first foray into this type of art, and I really enjoyed it, and I want to do more because I thought it was really, really fun. So yeah, I really like these a lot. And then this was my gouache, oil pastel and pencil fish paintings, which I did based on videos from the Tokyo Aquarium, the Ginza Art Aquarium that I went to, that's in my Japan vlog. I love the colors in these. I was pretty happy with this, honestly. I've got the paper in there so that way it doesn't transfer, although I probably don't need it because I did spray it with fixative. I had plans for these pages, and as you can see, I sort of painted these boxes because I was going to paint little landscapes on them, sort of similar to this, like I wanted to do this again, but I just ended up deciding I wanted to get the pages done. As I said, future me is not as ambitious as past me thought, and I just did some Tombow sketches, really loose and really quick. And then I went back to my old trusty, my solid forms with lines in it, and I did 2 batches of that in my favorite colors. And that's it. That is the second sketchbook. We made it to the end. So as you can see, it started with a lot of schoolwork, and then by the end of the year, I really hit my stride, and I created a lot of work I was really happy with in the end. So thank you for joining me. I hope that this has been insightful for you. I think it's so interesting looking at how my work has progressed from the very first sketchbook, and even from the very first artwork to the very last artwork. Very different in terms of style, but I think that there's a lot of growth and progression in these pages, and I'm really happy with how sketchbooking has transformed my daily practice and transformed my relationship with art, and I look forward to completing many more sketchbooks. So thank you for joining me for this video, and I will see you in the next one.